You're watching the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14. Coming up, authorities want the public's help after a hit-and-run crash takes the life of an Aurora, Missouri man.
Headed into the weekend, we have heat advisories, even excessive heat watches. It is going to be a scorcher. We'll have the latest from the Skywatch Weather Center.
And if you're thinking of staying at an Airbnb, we've got some tips for spotting hidden cameras. All that and more coming up.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Thanks for joining us for the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14. I'm Tanya Bach. Authorities are looking for information in a fatal hit-and-run crash involving a motorcycle and apparently a stolen pickup truck. It happened on a rural road about 3.5 miles west of Jenkins, Missouri, Wednesday morning. Investigators say a pickup hit a motorcycle driven by 38-year-old Patrick Anderson of Aurora, Missouri. Now, Anderson died at the scene. The Highway Patrol says the truck driver got out of the pickup and fled on a bicycle. They say an unknown person then stopped in a car and took that truck driver from the scene. Investigators think the pickup had recently been stolen out of Monette, and they don't know where the bicycle came from or who picked up the driver. A Joplin man who was originally accused of kidnapping another man at gunpoint gets 5 years probation on a plea deal. Joplin police say Benjamin Bartlett held a man at gunpoint in the back of a car in December and refused to let him leave. Officers found the car and gave chase. Eventually, Bartlett left the car and ran, but was caught. Bartlett pled guilty to resisting arrest. Prosecutors have dropped the kidnapping charge. Some inmates at the Bourbon County, Kansas jail are being moved. Officials say there just are not enough jail employees to properly staff it. The jail needs a minimum of 12 staff members, but come Monday, they will be down to 8. Inmates are being moved to other facilities in southeast Kansas. HVAC system at the jail has also been out for several days, and work to fix it began this week and is expected to finish in the coming days. The House Select Committee investigating the January 6, 2021 attack on the U.S. Capitol laid out the pressure campaign. It says President Trump and some of his aides put on Vice President Mike Pence to overturn the presidential election. Deborah Alfarone has the latest.
Testimony yesterday in the January 6th hearing indicated President Trump was told by several close aides and Vice President Mike Pence that not certifying Joe Biden's White House victory was illegal and unconstitutional. But witnesses told the House Select Committee investigating the January 6th insurrection that President Trump and his advisors continued to put intense pressure on Pence to carry out his wishes.
There is no justifiable basis to conclude that the vice president has that kind of authority.
A White House counsel testified that he told John Eastman, a lawyer for President Trump, that overturning Joe Biden's victory would spark outrage.
Said you're going to cause riots in the streets.
During the Capitol riots aimed at stopping the vote certification, a mob came within 40 feet of where Pence and others had been evacuated. The panel's timeline showed that even during the attack that endangered Pence's life, Mr. Trump tweeted that his VP lacked courage. Photos that the House Select Committee showed for the first time capture Pence taking shelter in an underground safe room.
He was determined that we would complete the work that we had set out to do that day.
In another development, the committee sent a written request to interview Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas's wife, Ginny. She exchanged messages with Eastman, the Trump lawyer, in the days leading up to January 6th. Deborah Alfarone, CBS News, Capitol Hill.
The panel investigating the assault on the Capitol is expected to deliver a final report on its findings later this year. Well, if you're a lover of music, games, and lavender, this event just might be for you. The Lavender Patch Farm in Fort Scott, Kansas is preparing for its 2022 Lavender Fest 5. Tickets are $5, and attendees will get to see demonstrations including how to distill lavender and how to care for lavender. The festival begins Saturday at 9 a.m. and runs until 3.
We're pretty excited. We'll have the lavender for everybody to see. You can do U-picks, and you can go and get your own bundles of lavender. We're also surrounded by wildflowers on 3 sides, natural wildflowers, and so you can get lavender and wildflowers if you want.
The Lavender Patch Farm opened in 2010 with just a single lavender plant, and now the farm has more than 1,000 plants. The Neosho National Fish Hatchery has started placing a new liner in one of its on-site ponds. Reconstruction is completely federally funded and began earlier this week. Roderick May, project manager, said the 9,000 fish in the pond were big enough to be taken to Lake Taneycomo in Branson and left Thursday morning. Now, the replacement project is a way for the hatchery to continue providing rare species of fish to lakes in the four-state area.
You know, that pond is empty right now. We actually didn't have trout in that particular pond this year. We've had trout in there before, but this year we had fathead minnows in that pond, and we knew that the project was coming up, so we had the pond already drained and cleaned and ready for the company to to begin their work.
The replacement project will not stop the hatchery's ability to give tours and provide educational programs to visiting groups. A very cool place. Well, eat your veggies. It's probably not the first time you've heard that, but Friday, of course, you should definitely crunch on some cucumber slices or pop a few peas on your plate. June 17th is National Eat Your Vegetables Day. As you know, because your parents probably drilled it into your head, vegetables are good for you. They're often chock full of vitamins and minerals, and it makes sense that U.S. health guidelines recommend folks get 3 to 5 servings a day. To serve up a salad or chow down on some carrots and celebrate the day made for veggie lovers.
Actually, my day made was 2 days ago when my daughter informed me. I asked her what she had for lunch, and she said, I had a salad. And I looked at her and I said, Caitlin, that's not, I was like, that's not your thing. And she goes, no, Dad, I decided I like salads because I was the only salad eater in the family. And I was like, oh, perfect.
Well, that's the same thing. My son I just picked him up from the engineering camp at Rolla, Missouri, at the Missouri State S&T. I think that's what it's called. Yeah, in Rolla.
Just say Everybody's gonna know.
Anyway, got all the way back from Raleigh yesterday, and I was like, "Did you eat while you were there? Like, what did you eat?" He said their cafeteria is sort of like the biggest buffet for salads and stuff, and he had massive salads every day. I was like,
"Oh God, I miss
really?
those.
Okay,
yeah. You guys had the salad buffet in college, right?
Yeah." He said salad and macaroni and cheese. Had to throw that in.
I actually do miss those college days where you could go through. Now, granted, folks, when we say that, and for those of you that have had the opportunity to take part in one of those college salad buffets, there's also bacon and ham and all the, it's like, we just.
Ooh, speaking of salad, Pittsburgh High School is now producing its own leafy greens.
Good call.
Hydroponically.
Yep.
And they will be selling them for the first time at the Pittsburgh Farmers Market on Saturday, June, I believe it's July 3rd, the first Saturday in July.
First Saturday in July?
First Saturday in July, they will be at the Pittsburgh Farmers Market with their wares.
And there's nothing better than a cold salad when it's in the 90s.
Nice.
Yeah, see what I learned there from you?
How refreshing.
See what I learned there from you? Our temperatures right now may be in the mid-70s, but eventually with the heat advisories and excessive heat warnings that are indicated there in the red, we are going to be up around 95 degrees later on today. Feel like in between 103 to 107. Now, luckily our overnight lows, they do get a little bit better. But once again, take precautions when you're outside for extended periods of time all the way through next week.
All right, up next, we'll meet a Vietnam veteran who has already accomplished so much in his life. Now we can add a bachelor's degree to that list. And later, a father receives a triple transplant of heart, lungs, and kidney, just in time for Father's Day. You're watching the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14. In Health Watch this morning, there may be a link between climate change and infant health. According to a study published in the New England Journal of Medicine on Wednesday, the burning of fossil fuels, which helps create pollution and extreme heat, appears to pose a threat to babies and children. Some pediatricians say they've seen a rise in heat-related illnesses, including heat stroke, over the past few years. In some cases, young patients even suffered climate-linked mental health issues. These findings come as severe heat warnings are in effect for millions of people in the Midwest and Southeast. Newly released data finds abortion rates increased in the U.S. from 2017 to 2020. Abortion rights group Guttmacher Institute released the survey on Wednesday It found there were more than 930,000 abortions in 2020. That's up from 862,000 in 2017. Data also showed 1 in 5 pregnancies ended in abortion in 2020. That's also up from 2017. Now, according to the group, abortion rates had been decreasing since 1981. Experts have said access to better birth control contributed to the previous decline. A New York father is thankful to have his life back this Father's Day. He's the first patient in the Northeast to receive a triple transplant for a new heart, lungs, and kidney. Naomi Ruckham has his story.
Ooh, so cold. Steve Quinn is grateful he can now be the dad he wants to be with his daughter, Kira.
I was basically like observing her life instead of participating in it.
The 40-year-old suffers from a rare autoimmune disorder that causes the immune system to attack the lungs and kidneys. He received a new kidney in his 20s and his health was good. But a few months ago, he started having shortness of breath.
Breathing was the big thing. I would go in and out of murmurs and atrial fibrillation. My heart would beat out of rhythm all the time. I had no energy whatsoever.
Doctors at NYU Langone Health told him he needed a new heart and kidney.
His heart had accumulated a lot of calcium over many, many years, and the pressures inside the heart were so high that it started to damage his lungs.
Dr. Bernard Kadosh says during Steve's workup, the team discovered he would also need new lungs.
Triple organ transplantation is very rare. Heart, lung, kidney has not been done in the Northeast ever.
I entered a pretty dark, sad place, and the transplant team noticed it, and they asked what could I do, and I was like, what could they do? And I just thought, I just want to see my daughter. And that kind of like rejuvenated me to get through the next waiting and then recovery and stuff.
Steve got his triple organ transplant in March, a 13-hour surgery. He said the recovery was tough. 3 months later, he can walk a mile with Hills and live in these moments with Kira.
This is going to allow me to see her go to kindergarten for the first time and do like donuts with dad and daddy-daughter dances and stuff like that. And it's just, it just fills you with so much love.
This Father's Day, he says he's thankful for the gifts another family gave him to be here for his daughter. Naomi Ruckham, CBS News, Brooklyn, New York.
Scientists believe the Hubble telescope has detected a black hole right in our backyard. Of course, that's speaking in astronomy terms. It's actually about 5,000 light years away in a spiral arm of our Milky Way known as Carina Sagittaris. The black hole might look similar to what you're seeing, which is actually an artist's impression. Researchers believe this black hole is in motion and think there are about 100 million more free-floating black holes moving about our galaxy.
I know you love your space.
It's kind of scary, though. Like,
boy, that came
I
out
love
the
my
wrong
space.
way.
You love your space too.
I know you love outer space.
I like outer space. Michael likes under the sea.
I do. Yeah, I was going to say. I'm like, it's amazing what we find out there. We still don't know what's under our own oceans. That's what amazes me. Current conditions over 7th and Rangeline as we sit at 74 degrees. Oh my goodness, look at that humidity. We have spiked up to 97%. So while we sit right now in the mid-70s temperature-wise, heat advisories and excessive heat warnings feeling in between 103 to 107 this afternoon. Be back with more KOAM Morning News on Fox 14 right after this. Next one's a little bit creepy. Get this, if you're booking to stay at an Airbnb or even a hotel, think about that, even just your commonplace hotel, well, you might feel more secure knowing if there's no hidden cameras watching your every move. Connor Hansen with some tips on what you need to look for when keeping an eye out for those hidden cameras.
From alarm clocks to phone chargers, even car keys, you can put a camera in it.
They are getting harder to detect, especially someone who has enough sense to hide this.
These cameras are small enough to hide pretty much anywhere. Take a look at this one, hidden on the inside of a screw. We asked an expert about some ways you can detect them.
You'll notice that they all have a similar form factor.
Surveillance Plus in Winter Gardens sells the equipment. They say they get calls from people every day trying to identify a potential camera. They say a good first step is to search spy cams online and compare them to what you're seeing.
All the travel clocks are going to look like this. All your cell phone chargers are going to look like this.
For about $150, you can buy a device like this. It can help you find even the smallest lens or detect a Wi-Fi connected camera. Airbnb says it does not allow hosts to use hidden cameras or cameras in private spaces, and hosts are supposed to tell their guests about any cameras they have at all. In Florida, it's against the law to film anyone without their permission if they're somewhere they can reasonably expect privacy. An attorney explains what you should do if you find one.
If you're renting the whole house, you have an expectation on the inside of the home. We all know that if there's a Ring doorbell outside, we probably don't have an expectation of privacy if we're standing in front of the Ring doorbell.
All right, on to the Skywatch storm tracker, because I was just telling our general manager who was in the studio, that story really creeps me out. The fact that you could, thinking you're just like having a night in a hotel and somebody's watching you. No, thank you. I feel like it, Sting. It's, and they're, I don't know. There's just something weird about it. Skywatch storm tracker with severe thunderstorm activity now moving through the central and southern portions of Illinois, departing the St. Louis area. For the rest of the Midwest, minus that thunderstorm, it is just locked in with straight abnormal heat. As a matter of fact, in the state of Kansas alone, the heat and humidity being blamed on 2,000 head of cattle dying, especially in the northwestern section of Kansas. And so on top of that, remember, the #1 weather-related death in the United States is attributed to heat. You need to watch out for heat exhaustion. That can lead to heat stroke. The signs that you need to look for, once again, dizziness, nausea, limbs start to feel weak. If this happens to you, you need to get inside immediately and start to sip on water. There's no reason to gulp down water. You need to sip on water. If you see this happening to somebody, make sure you usher them into a cooler place, remove any excess clothing, any tight clothing that they have, try to get them into some loose fitting clothing, and pat them down with a towel, and also to make sure that they are sipping on water. This is nothing to kid around about, because we're already talking about temperatures that are abnormally warm for this time of year. We're breaking records every single night because our lows are not dipping, and we're riding the 90s all the way through the middle of next week. We'll be back with more KOAM Morning News on Fox 14 right after this.
It's time to honor today's four-state hero, Lance Corporal Lyle Fritchie. Sarcoxie, Missouri native, served from 1966 to 1967 in Vietnam, where he earned the Purple Heart. To Lance Corporal Lyle Fritchie, we thank you, today's four-state hero. Well, years after being on the front lines in Vietnam, a South Carolina veteran is still making a difference. Timothy Brown marked a major milestone on Monday, earning a bachelor's degree at the age of 77. Simone Jameson has the story.
I was up quite a few nights with Shakespeare. With the tutor, it helped me quite a bit.
After more than 3 years of study sessions and long nights, Timothy Brown earned his bachelor's degree in drama from South Carolina State. Brown walked the stage May 6th at the age of 77.
I was sitting in class with my grandbabies. The most rewarding part was to be able to go back and get my degree and be paid to do that.
Brown has faced his fair share of adversity over the years, serving in the Vietnam War in the 1960s.
I was in a very dangerous situation every day, all the 10 months that I was there.
Brown doubling as a cook and Greyhound bus driver for years, driving for the likes of blues legend B.B. King and community leaders who were taking part in Dr. Martin Luther King's march in Washington during the Civil Rights Movement. Those moments fueling Brown's dream to be a playwright.
We did sacrifice, part of our lives so that we can have a better day.
Brown is now focused on a promising future, creating a play paying tribute to his 3,000-mile bus ride from Los Angeles to Washington, D.C. He hopes to use the proceeds from the ticket sales to send disadvantaged youth to college.
As long as you have your health and strength, you're never too old. I'm proof of that.
For this veteran, who is also a pastor and certified firefighter, the sky is the limit.
Another half hour of news and weather is just ahead. Coming up on the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14, we've got a very special guest joining us here to talk about our More Power Tower project. And Photoshop finally offers a free version of its popular software. You're watching the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14. We'll be right back.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Welcome back to the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14. It's currently 7:29. Let's take a look at today's top stories. Authorities arrest an El Dorado Springs, Missouri man after he allegedly made terroristic threats. Officials say David Arduzer Jr. made threats against the juvenile office at the Vernon County Courthouse last week. Arduzer is charged with first-degree terroristic threat and tampering with a judicial officer. They say he also had outstanding warrants from St. Clair County and was out on bond from Cedar County on charges that included unlawful possession of a firearm and second-degree domestic assault. Authorities say the exact details of the threat will not be released until the investigation is complete and after criminal proceedings. Authorities are looking for information in a fatal hit-and-run crash involving a motorcycle and apparently a stolen pickup truck. It happened on a rural road about 3.5 miles west of Jenkins, Missouri, Wednesday morning. Investigators say a pickup hit a motorcycle driven by 38-year-old Patrick Anderson of Aurora, Missouri. Anderson died at the scene. The Highway Patrol says the truck driver got out of the pickup and fled on a bicycle. They say an unknown person then stopped in a car and took the driver from the scene. Investigators think the pickup had recently been stolen out of Monette. They don't know where the bicycle came from or who picked up the driver. A Missouri man is in serious condition after a crash. Authorities say Dustin Lingenfelter of Sarcoxie, Missouri, lost control of his motorcycle. This caused the vehicle to overturn. He was transported to Mercy Hospital in Joplin. And authorities are investigating a death after finding a body in Fort Scott, Kansas. Officials say they found the body in the woods near the river at Gun Park. They say they are still investigating the cause of death. They're not yet releasing the name of the victim. Some inmates at the Bourbon County, Kansas jail are being moved. Officials say there just are not enough jail employees to properly staff it. The jail needs a minimum of 12 staff members, but come Monday, they will be down to 8. Inmates are being moved to other facilities in southeast Kansas. HVAC system at the jail has also been out for several days. Work to fix it began this week and is expected to finish in the coming days. Republican Attorney General candidate Kris Kobach has endorsed lowering the Kansas legal drinking age to 18. He promises that if he is elected this year, he'll challenge the federal policy preventing the move. Kobach criticized a 1980s federal law that threatens states with the loss of highway dollars if their drinking ages are below 21. He says he believes the U.S. Supreme Court would now overturn that law. Kobach said if 18-year-olds can go to war, they should have all the rights other citizens enjoy. Oklahoma House and Senate failed to reach a deal on a tax cut package that Governor Kevin Stitt was urging them to pass. On Thursday, the House adjourned a special session after passing an array of tax cut options. Senate leaders dismissed the proposals as political theater. Senate President Pro Tem Greg Treat said he would assemble a working group to consider a more methodical approach to tax cuts. Republican Governor Stitt called the legislature into a special session to consider cutting the state's sales tax on groceries and reduce the individual income tax rate. Well, Lego is coming back to the United States. On Wednesday, the Danish company announced it will be building a $1.7 million square foot facility in Virginia. Officials say carbon neutral building should be completed by 2025, and they expect to hire close to 2,000 employees. Lego is riding the wave of COVID-fueled boom, saying its sales climbed 27% in 2021. This will be Lego's 7th global factory and the first to be in the U.S. since its Connecticut factory shut down in 2006.
A little close to home, too, after pulling the jobs out of Pittsburgh at Pittsco.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's not surprising that it's like that company makes so much money. I mean, you have a little box of plastic blocks, $50 to $100.
So one thing I've always been confused with, the term, you don't put an S at the end of it. Am I correct on that? It is not Legos. It's not plural. Am I right?
The only way you would refer to it that way is if you're talking not the company, but just the blocks individually in multiple quantities of them. But the company is Lego.
Lego.
Yes.
And then if I have multiple pieces, I have Legos.
Yeah.
Thank you. I've always been confused about whether that was possessive or plural or how that works.
Just like Band-Aid. I have a stack of Band-Aids. Band-Aid's a brand.
So is Kleenex. Current conditions over 7th and Range Line. 74 degrees is where we stand right now. Look at that humidity. My goodness, already clocking in at 97%. And so what we're talking about right now, even though our temperatures are in the mid 70s, let's go ahead and tack on 2 to 3 degrees already. And that leads us to heat advisories for our counties in orange lasting until tonight, and then up to your northwest. When you get into the red, that's an excessive heat watch. I think the important thing about that is the expiration time that does not expire until Monday night. As far as thunderstorm activity, we've got it cooking out to our east. This is actually the system that came out of Kansas City, now dominating central and southern Illinois. This has been capable of 70-mile-an-hour winds, multiple reports of hail down around I-70. Kansas City right now kind of in cleanup mode after what they experienced overnight with the amount of number 1 rainfall, number 2, all the wind damage that they have. But you'll notice that's just kind of the one spot that we have in the contiguous 48. Really the main talker for the Southwest, the Midwest, down to the Southeast, it is simply the heat. Need everybody to be very safe and sound outside. Also too, Tanya and I have been reiterating this morning, if you're a supervisor and you have crews that work outside, make sure that they take frequent breaks. You take care of them, because I know how those 4-state work ethics are, and you're going to be out there and you're just going to keep on going. However, with what we have on the 7-day forecast, we all need to take care of each other. We'll be back with more KOAM Morning News on Fox 14 right after this.
Welcome back. We have a special guest in studio this morning, our new general manager, Brooke Arnold, joining us here to talk about something we've been mentioning. You've seen these promos with Dow Quick talking about more power.
Yes.
So we have a new tower going up. This is so exciting.
We do. You know, it may not seem exciting to the average person, but this is one of the most monumental things that's actually happened in KOAM's history. So we're pretty excited about it and want to talk a little bit about why it's important to those who are watching.
Let's break it down with, first of all, why are we doing this?
So we're doing it for a couple of reasons. One, the existing tower is the original tower that was started when the station went on the air in 1953. So it's very, very old.
Yes.
And it actually ended up being a hazard to actually here at the station with the elements of whether it can rust, and so it's actually kind of a hazard. So we're going to take it down for that reason. But secondly, when we did the digital conversion in the early 2000s, it actually impacted our signal and folks being able to get our station and see our content. So, so the FCC has granted, and our parent company has invested in a new tower for us so that folks like you at home watching can see our content and receive important information and weather when it happens.
So there was a little bit of a transition. We actually had 2 towers up at one point, and the video that you just saw there was the last remnants of one of them coming down before we put up the other one.
Yeah.
Okay, so you know, we don't want to get into all the technical parts of it and stuff because that's confusing to me anyway.
Yeah,
but, like,
me too.
What does it mean to our average viewer, though? I mean, what's going to happen for us when this is done?
Okay, so that's what's important, and the reason we're talking about it today is if you're watching us right now, that's great. That means you already have our signal, but there's actually lots of folks, including myself actually at home, I have struggled to get our signal at home. And so what it means for you all at home is once we transition to the new tower, those of you who struggle to get the signal but can get it, so again, I have an antenna at home, if I put it just right, I can get our signal, but it's kind of, it struggles a little bit. So if you're like me, once this happens, you won't have that problem as much. Some folks don't get us at all, so you're not even seeing this interview, and we're gonna have to try to communicate to those people that they'll be able to get the signal. So that's the biggest thing, is that people will be able to get us. The second thing is sometimes folks struggle to get us inside buildings. And so this new power will be able to go across the walls, if you will, and people will be able to get us stronger.
Which is my situation, because I live across from this huge brick building that I can't get the signal through. I mean, I live in Pittsburgh. Like
right here.
I think it's close enough. I should be able to get it, but there's a struggle right now, so this will help out.
Yep.
So what do folks need to do once, okay, first of all, like during the process, the signal might get weaker. Why is that?
Yes. Okay. So in a couple of weeks, we're actually going to, when we take the tower down, the temporary tower that we're working on right now is going to be what we use to broadcast the signal. And so that could impact you just temporarily for a couple of weeks. So if you're watching, if you normally watch, and here in a couple of weeks you notice you can't get us or the signal's weak, hold on just a short period of time. Then we'll switch to the new tower after that temporary process, and then you'll be golden. So just be aware, those of you who are watching, that you may struggle for a couple of weeks to get us during that temporary transition.
And you may need to rescan your channels to pick us up.
Yes, yes, let's talk about that. So after the new tower comes up, you at home, and more importantly, the folks who aren't seeing this because they can't get us, they'll be able to pick up the signal by rescanning their television sets. So if you have trouble here in a couple of weeks, go on and rescan. You can get more information about how to rescan on our website at koamnewsnow.com/power. And we have details and FAQs on what type of antenna you might need, or if you have a built-in antenna, how you can rescan your TV. So that will be kind of the action item for you once that's
And we'll
done.
make sure that this interview is actually, with all this great information from you, Brooke, is on that page as well.
Okay.
So that if you're watching, but you know you have a friend that isn't currently able to get us, you can tell them to log on to that website, our website, koamnewsnow.com/power, and they can find out more information about how to get us.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, spread the word.
Yes, that's where we need your help. If you're watching, like Tanya said, tell your friends and family. They'll be able to get us very soon.
All right, this is exciting. All right, anything else you want to add?
No, just thank you all for watching. We appreciate you, and thank you.
All right, we'll be right back.
We'll soon have a free version available. For those of you in the production world, I'm sure you've heard the news before. Just Photoshop it. Well, there's now a free Photoshop version out in Canada. It's a test format. Users can access Photoshop by setting up a free Adobe account. Service is going to be more widely available later this year. Free version, it's going to work on Chrome and Edge browsers. Core functions, there's going to be refining curves and edges, converting smart objects. Those more advanced features, well, they will still be available to paying subscribers. Adobe says it wants Photoshop to be more accessible and easier to try. A new bill proposes to increase senior Social Security checks. The SSE Act could give seniors an additional $200 a month. That's $2,400 a year if it's passed by Congress. Bill was introduced earlier this month by Representative Peter DeFazio of Oregon. He's a Democrat, and Senator Bernie Sanders, the independent from Vermont. Proposal comes after the Social Security Administration said full checks could stop in 13 years without congressional action. This boost could be a 12% gain to the average $1,658 check. A consulting firm report shows a significant portion of people making six figures living under tight constraints. A survey from Willis Towers Watson says 36% of people with salaries of, get this, $100,000 are living paycheck to paycheck. That's actually twice as many in that category than said the same in 2019. More than 9,600 workers from large and mid-sized employees, they were polled. Higher earners cited housing as the greatest challenge. Lower income workers cited debt expenses. A new analysis has a dollar figure for how much inflation is costing us all per month. Moody's Analytics says inflation is taking up $460 a month out of the average American's budget. Extra cost that comes from rising prices. We've got goods like cars, rent, food, healthcare, and of course, gas prices. The analysis compares costs of when goods in May compared to 2018, when inflation was just 2.1%. The Consumer Price Index, it rose 8.6% in May, according to the Labor Department. Be right back with more after this, but first, a look at market prices before the opening bell. For those of you that remember the old Daily Show spoof about Wikipedia and the thread about bears, well, we got a new one. Evidently the secret ingredient in Coke being vinegar. It's not. But there's a video making the rounds on TikTok telling viewers that sparkling water and vinegar taste just like soda. Jeannie Moose with the internet's strong reaction, and Jeannie decided to take the challenge and test the theory for herself.
What do you get when you combine balsamic vinegar and sparkling water into a beverage and tell folks
it tastes like a Coke?
What you get,
oh God,
is a lot of this. Gagging and scrunched up faces. A California actress named Amanda Jones hatched the idea on TikTok, saying she got it from her Pilates instructor.
I did not think people would get so riled up over a fun drink.
Was the part about vinegar and sparkling water tasting just like Coke that got folks.
Not a no, but a hell no. I don't know what y'all think Coke tastes like, but do not insult it like that again.
And to think that Coke has always claimed
it's the real thing.
Now there's this supposedly healthier imposter spawning countless taste tests.
I hate...
This guy added too much balsamic vinegar.
I'm gonna add more balsamic for my boyfriend.
As a joke, passing it off as a Coke.
Oh! What is that?
Many thought the whole concept was a prank. But Amanda, you're definitely not punking us, right?
I'm definitely not punking you.
She says she's been drinking it for 2 years. After my first sip with plain sparkling water and vinegar, I switched to a flavored water with vinegar. It does taste like Coke a little bit. Amanda's getting more than a taste of negative comments.
I think this should affect your credit score. That was my favorite.
They're calling it the salad dressing soda, though for some it's more choke than Coke. Jeannie Moose. CNN. New York.
Okay, like any other internet challenge and viral challenge that we've seen, do that at your own risk, folks. My advice would be no. I do like what the redheaded gentleman said. Trevor, how can I put this? What did he say? No, he did not say heck. It's not hot. It's bleeping hot. I don't know if the FCC will let me use that on air, so that's why we just substitute it. He was allowed to say it in Jeannie Moose's story, but if we take a look at the heat advisory that we have for today, let's go ahead and extend that into tonight. And that's why I said, it's not hot, it's bleeping hot. We even have up there in the far left-hand corner excessive heat watches, and you'll notice that expiration time is not until Monday, an indicator that Father's Day weekend is going to be a tad bit of a scorcher. We'll roll heat index readings in between 103 to 107 today, and then we'll have triple digits as well on Saturday and Sunday. And yes, thine eyes do not deceive thee. That 7-day forecast for next week, hotter than what we had at the beginning of this week. We'll be back with more KOAM Morning News on Fox 14 right after this.
Welcome back to the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14. Here's what's happening today. The House committee investigating the January 6th attack says former Vice President Mike Pence resisted sustained pressure from former President Trump and his allies to overturn the 2020 election. The panel now wants to interview Ginny Thomas, wife of Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas. She exchanged emails with former President Trump's lawyer, John Eastman, in the days leading up to the January 6th attacks. Eastman was among those giving President Trump ideas to block the election certification. Thomas told a conservative news site that she cannot wait to clear up misconceptions. Officials with the Food and Drug Administration are headed to Sturgis, Michigan today to help Abbott Nutrition after recent flooding closed its baby formula plant. Abbott only recently resumed making EleCare after contamination concerns shuttered the facility earlier this year. The company says it may be weeks before production resumes. And the World Cup is coming to North America. FIFA announced 16 cities in the U.S., Mexico, and Canada have been chosen to host matches for the 2026 soccer tournament. 3 nations agreed the World Cup final will be in the U.S.
Look at temperatures as we head into Father's Day weekend. Get outside and enjoy some time with Dad, but try to do it either early in the morning or in the evening. Avoid those peak heating hours, as we'll have heat advisories lasting all the way through next week.
All right. Well, Dolly Parton opens her wallet again for the good of the nation. The legendary singer-songwriter has donated $1 million to Vanderbilt University Medical Center's Division of Pediatric Infectious Diseases. In a press release, Parton says she's doing her part to keep as many children as safe and healthy as possible. Vanderbilt officials say the funds will help with research into viruses and bacteria, as well as treating infections for juvenile cancer patients. In 2020, Parton donated $1 million to Vanderbilt to support Moderna's COVID-19 vaccine.
Hey, just as an aside, coming up tonight on CBS, it's called Watergate: High Crimes in the White House. Leslie Stahl recounts her time as a very young reporter. It's 50 years ago to the day that the Waterhouse break-in took place. And also, too, after reading a little bit about this, Tanya, Walter Cronkite and Daniel Shore on air, they did this on air when they found out they were on Nixon's list.
Ooh.
Yes. Yeah, so it's going to be interesting to hear Leslie's recount, because she's such a wonderful reporter. Thank you so much for letting us put the good in your morning. More news and weather when we see you at noon.
Have a great morning and an even better day.